So we were founded in 1995 as Project Women, established by representatives of 6 orders of nuns. And then in 2005, they were serving 4 moms. And that's when I got here, March 28th of 2005. We see education as a responsibility. When you switch it from a privilege to, if you're special, you get to go, to its responsibility, everybody has to get some level of education. You go very quickly from the 4 we were serving in March of 2005 to the 3,571 families we served last year.
Welcome to Heroes of Education with Class Act Federal Credit Union. This month we are honoring Cathe Dykstra for all that she does and has done over the years with Family Scholar House. So thank you again for joining us today, and look forward to getting to know more about you as well as the program that you've developed.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. So just to start off, can you tell us a little bit about what Family Scholar House does and what separates it from other organizations that are similar?
So the mission of Family Scholar House is to end the cycle of poverty and transform our community by empowering families and youth to succeed in education and achieve lifelong self-sufficiency. That's a lot, so let's unpack it a little bit. So how do we do that? We provide single parents and their children with the housing and the support they need while they're earning a college degree, and by that I mean any post-secondary educational degree, so that they can enter careers and transition into the community as fully financially independent family units. We also have a pilot project that we've started, and for the first time now we also have housing for foster care alumni, young adults who have either aged out of the foster care system or were in foster care after their 13th birthday and qualify for the support, can be a part of the low-income housing tax credits, can get Section 8, that do not have children, so that we can help them before they have babies, which is a great way to do that.
That's smart.
And they're in the same structured program of education and career preparation.
Okay. So what are some of the differences between different people that are within the program? Are there different levels or different needs that you meet?
There's a full continuum of care from people who have come to us and are pre-residential. So they're getting, they get to meet with their academic coach or meet with their family advocate or bring their child to toddler book club or come to mommy and me cooking classes, those sorts of things. A lot of support for the family unit while they're waiting. Now, let's keep in mind that they may be waiting while they're living in shelter or staying with friends, or we've had people sleeping in their cars. This is not an easy way of life, but they're hungry for the opportunity and they're waiting for me to have a vacancy that they can move into. And then once they're residents, they are all full-time college students. So full-time college students, they're also working. 91% work full-time, or 91% work, 24% work full-time. We really want them to focus on their education and fit work around it. So most of that is work-study. That's the only really flexible employer you'll ever have your whole life because they want you to succeed in school. And so do we. So we need you to get settled in school before you add the responsibilities of work, because you're also a full-time parent. And they're getting all of the support plus that housing and child care. And then there's also post-program support. So after someone leaves, whether they graduated or not, 86% of the time they graduate with a degree while they're living here. But regardless, they go into post-program support. So were they to have some need, we already know them well. They should come back to us as opposed to starting brand new with somebody else. An example is someone who came through our program with children that were, middle school maybe, and now they're in high school and they're starting to look at college, and they want their kids to have the same academic coach they had. They want the person who helped them get advice about college to provide that advice for their kids. So we encourage them to bring their kids back and let us help them with whatever they're applying for as far as scholarships or what they're looking at as far as colleges.
Because you know them better than most any other institution, and plus you know what the options are and where to lead them as well.
We do. The average stay here is 3 to 3.5 years. And so sometimes people say, well, you're a shelter. Well, no, we're not. I mean, we're keeping people way longer than they would normally stay in a shelter. But it also isn't that kind of housing. They have an individual apartment that is their responsibility, and they're paying 30% of their earned income towards their rent. So it's, they're independent. So the difference between us and a shelter is more than just the length of stay. It is also that we're so focused on the academic coaching and the education and the career. And so you really need to stay here long enough to catch a deep breath and exhale and focus and then get those goals accomplished. This is a partnership towards their goals, and they sign a program agreement with us, and we sign it with them. And so they're committing to things, and we're committing to things. And as long as we both hold up our end of the deal, then we end up with some really cool outcomes. To date, our participants have earned 371 college degrees. And that's a number, and that's great, and it's meaningful. It's meaningful to every one of those people. But my husband was ill a few years ago, and he's great now, but at the time he was receiving medical services in our community, and he had Family Scholar House nurses. And getting to see these young women who, without us, would be people who wanted to be nurses, and with us are nurses serving our community, and in this case, serving my family, you really start to understand the impact that this has on your community. Here's someone that is not just serving my family, but serving all these families in a meaningful way that they wouldn't be able to do if they hadn't had this experience. So we were founded in 1995 as Project Women, established by representatives of 6 orders of nuns.
Wow, okay.
And the nuns kept the organization very small, intentionally. And then in 2005, they were serving 4 moms. And that's when I got here, March 28th of 2005. We're recording this just a couple of days from my anniversary, my 13th anniversary.
Right.
And there were two big paradigm shifts. The nuns had gotten an education at a time when it was not guaranteed to women. And it was easy to see education as a privilege. And I don't want to argue that education is not a privilege, but I see it differently, and our board sees it differently. We see education as a responsibility. You have a responsibility to get the level of education necessary to be a contributing member of your community. When you switch it from a privilege to, if you're special, you get to go, to its responsibility, everybody has to get some level of education. You go very quickly from the 4 we were serving in March of 2005 to the 3,571 families we served last year.
Wow. That's
quick.
impactful.
A lot of growth. And those families last year had 4,913 children. And then in that pilot project, we served 349 foster care alumni. So you're talking about a lot of people. And that's really largely, I would attribute it primarily to that shift. When you go from you have to be special to get one to everybody should do something, right? The other big shift was that they were raising money to pay for apartments to put people in them, because that's what they had available to them. Through the use of the low-income housing tax credit and the $59 million worth of construction we've done here in Louisville since 2007, we've been able to shift that paradigm to where we have the apartments to put people in. And so we're not raising money to pay for their rent. They're paying 30% of their earned income towards their rent, which gives them buy-in. And at the end of the day, that money goes into the project, which ultimately comes back to provide some support for Family Scholar House. We changed our name in 2008, which I have to say, that was one of the big changes that was particularly helpful. Because Project Women didn't tell you what we did, and Family Scholar House does. We're about families and education and the housing that allows families to focus on education. And I thought that was a big deal until one day one of my little boys came in to see me, and he said, "Miss Cathe, I just want to thank you for changing the name." I said, "Okay, Sean, well, say more about that." And he said, "Well, saying you live with Project Women will get you beat up on the playground at Newburgh Middle School." And it had never occurred to us the impact on the boys in our families to say they lived at Project Women. Never occurred to us. Shame on us, but it never occurred to us. And so Family Scholar House is really a bigger umbrella. And even our foster care alumni need a family and they deserve a family. And so we just decided they'd be part of ours. Well, we've revitalized several neighborhoods. I mean, we've taken dilapidated old schools that had been out of service and a place for vandals and drug use and all kinds of bad things, and turned them into vibrant communities where people are all focused on education and achieving their goals. And that's particularly meaningful when it's a school, because we feel like we've rededicated it to the purpose of education. But we've done new construction, and we've done historic preservation, and we've done renovation. And in all those cases, we've brought resources to a community, because we don't just serve the people that live with us. We serve all those pre-residents and all of our neighbors. So when we do a financial fair or career fair or health fair or college fair, that's open to the whole community. Free tax preparation, open to the whole community. So when we move into a neighborhood, the neighborhood's better off. And that makes us a good neighbor, and it makes it more likely that our neighbors embrace us. And a lot of times you won't know because they don't wear a sign. It doesn't say, I'm a Family Scholar House graduate. So you wouldn't necessarily know, but there are a lot of people out there that can point back to this as being a place that gave them a fresh start when they really needed one.
That's so powerful.
So before I was at our organization, I was the director of the Economic Success Program at the Center for Women and Families. So I was at the domestic violence shelter working with people who wanted to buy a home, go to school, or start a business. And I had a great staff, and in 4 years we put 38 families in homes. But you don't have to have, a PhD to see that the ones that are most likely to be very successful in getting in a home and staying in a home and ultimately using that home to leverage to get a better home are the ones that have a college degree or some level of education that will allow them to have a career, not a job. So when given the opportunity to come to our organization, I saw this as a natural extension of that work. I knew that most of the women we would serve would have experienced domestic violence. The nuns weren't so sure, but it turns out it's 95%.
Wow.
Very high. It may not be right before they come to us, but that's one of the things that's contributed to them having unstable housing and living in poverty. It just kind of all piles on. And so I knew that the experience working with that special population would be helpful, but I also knew that if we helped them get an education, then they could write their ticket for their own future. I think a lot of people expect you to say funding. When you don't get any federal or state dollars for program operations, so you're fully dependent upon what you can raise, which this year's a little over $1.6 million needed for program operations. You took a big deep breath. There are people that take a big deep breath and then start to hyperventilate, thinking, oh my God, how am I going to raise that much money? I really feel like the community understands the impact of what we do and values the work, and so the most important piece for us is making sure they know so that they can contribute. But where I look at some of the challenges really relates to, I don't worry about the people who live with us, because the people who live with us are good. I have great concern about the people who are on our waiting list in that pre-residential program, because there are 855 families out there that are waiting to live with us, and I don't know where they're sleeping tonight, and I don't know that they're safe. And so how do you continue to stretch and grow and meet the needs, not just of the ones living with you, but expand that to meet the needs of the one waiting to live with you? So let me give you an example of something we did to help with that. So from a conversation with government, with the local government, we learned that it was likely that some of the services that our participants receive that do not come through us may be cut because of funding cuts. And so when you're looking at that, you say, okay, if this is cut, how will it impact the families that I serve? And will they be able to continue to go to school and do all the things they need to do if they don't have that support? So I found myself faced with two opportunities. One would be, no, I didn't say challenges, I said opportunities. One would be to raise all the money needed to fill the gap without knowing the size of the gap. And that's a lot. Even if you don't know, you know it's a lot. You just don't know how much it is. The other would be to figure out a way to make sure that whatever resources were lost, they knew where the resources were that still existed. So if a program shuts down where you used to get support for diapers, is there another program with diapers? You see? So the timing all of this was such that it was January of 2017, and I was visiting in Pittsburgh. We do a lot of work with PNC real estate for our tax credits, and we were visiting in Pittsburgh, and I was made aware of bigberg.com, which is an online web app. You don't have to download anything. It's just type it in your browser for resources for Pittsburgh. And I saw that, and I was like, I want one of those. I want that right now for Louisville. And so last Thursday, we launched louisconnect.com here in Louisville in both English and Spanish, where you just type in LOUIE connect.com, and on your phone or iPad or laptop or computer, you have all of the resources that you need to access that are free in our community, have been visited and vetted, so we're sure they're there. And even better, it starts with who you are. So you filter the results based on who you are. So if you're a family, you would go family and then services and then choose from those icons. If you're an immigrant and refugee, you would start there, or a veteran, or a foster youth or alumni. There's a category for each one. So you start there to filter your results. And that is a game changer, not just for my families, but for our whole community. It also makes it possible to call 211 directly from the app, so that if you didn't find what you were looking for, you can talk to a real person, and they can help you.
So it's like a powerful tool.
Yeah. So that comes, it's the thing is, you hit, it's like you hit a wall, and then you go, okay, what am I going to do about this? I heard Tori Murden McClure say one time, and I loved this: a roadblock only blocks the road. It doesn't block the side of the road. It doesn't block the air over the road. It doesn't block the ground under the road. And so when you get to one of those places, you have to realize that it may look like an obstacle to you right now, a barrier, but it's only a barrier in this one little area. So you got to figure out the rest of it. And we've been pretty good at that, but Louis Connect is a new opportunity for our community. I really love our families. I love what we do. I mean, in any given day, I may have spit up on one shoulder and tears on another, and it's just part of it, to be a part of the life. They've invited us into their experience, and we're honored to be a part of their journey and proud to see them achieve their goals. One of the first young women I took when I first got to our organization, she came in at a time where I was wondering, the finances were really tight. They were tighter than I had been led to believe they were, and there was part of me going, what have I done? Maybe I should just see if I can get my old job back, And as she came in, and she had a 4-year-old son with her, and she was 18 with a 4-year-old son. And I heard her story. And in hearing her story, I realized how many people had let her down, and yet she still had hope, and that was almost miraculous. She had been in 12 different foster care homes. She got pregnant when she was in the 6th grade by a much older man. She had kept her baby through everything. She'd kept her baby, and here she was. She'd been turned out on her own and didn't have anywhere to go or anybody to count on. And it was very real to me. And I, as much as I felt for her, I really identified more with her son, this little 4-year-old, because my parents were the first in their families to go to college. So that makes me the second generation, which is like our kids. And I know that the bar is set really high for that second generation, because once their parents have gotten a college degree, like you are going to succeed. It's on you to succeed. And I thought about how much promise he had, and how much promise she had, and how many people had really failed them. And so when she graduated from JCTC, I was super proud. And then she transferred on to U of L and then graduated with a BA in psychology. Her son's voice was the loudest one in the room, yelling, "Yay, Mom!" Because it was as big of a deal for him as it was for her. And when she went back and got a nursing degree and then started saving for a home and for his college education, I saw that American dream sort of playing out, right? And it would have been easy for that to have been a different experience for her and for him. And I'm just glad we were there. Oh my gosh, we need volunteers. We need volunteers of all kinds. We need people who want to come in and do stuff with our kids. We need people who want to tutor or mentor. But we also need folks who are willing to collect things like gently used children's books or right, Easter eggs. Because we use Easter eggs all year long. We call them egg-formations. They're like affirmations in an egg. And so people write little messages and put them in the eggs, and we keep baskets of them on all of our campuses so that somebody who's having a tough day can come in and get a word of encouragement. And you know what means most of them is not just what it says, but that someone in the community took the time to write that down to encourage them. When they know that it's from the community, it really means a lot that the community is cheering them on. So things like that. Diapers. We need diapers. Just like everybody else who has little kids, we need diapers. And I have 365 little kids, so I need some diapers.
It's a lot of diapers.
But it can be the simplest thing. Somebody's cleaning out their house and getting rid of a bed and a kitchen table and an end table. We probably would like to have that because our families don't come with much furniture, and we can put it to really good use. So it's those sorts of things. We love it when people make a donation, but we understand that, that there's everybody talks about the 3 T's, time, talent, and treasure. We really look at them as 4 T's. Your time, your talent, your expertise, your treasure, your financial donations, and your trust. If you trust that we are doing meaningful work, you'll tell others. And those others may get involved as volunteers or donors, or your words might fall upon exactly the right person who needs to be in this program. And without you, they wouldn't know about it. So that 4th T means a lot to us. You guys have been great to come to our financial fair. So when we do a health fair, we look at health as your physical fitness and your financial fitness, because we really think they go together. So we have folks that come and talk to our participants and all the others from the community that come to our health and financial fairs, and that's been very meaningful. And we're very proud to get support from Class Act, and that's very meaningful too. And you guys have regularly attended our graduations. We've just about grown out of every place we can have it in now. We haven't figured out this year's yet, because it's just so much fun to see people graduate, and we want to make sure their kids see them graduate as well. And just spread the word. Opportunities like this, you don't know who might see it that didn't know we existed. That'll know now. I'm a really big fan of servant leadership. So if you are serving both the people that are a part of your mission, but also if you're serving anyone that reports to you and the people you work with, you naturally rise to a leadership position. And people see that potential in seeing your service. So I'm less likely to sit down with somebody and help them plot how to climb the corporate ladder, but more likely to help them figure out what questions do I need to be asking to be more useful, more contributory in my role. How do I give more? And what do I need to learn? We know a lot of things. We have access to more information than we've ever had, in my lifetime. Right now is it. You get lots of information. But information and knowledge are not the same thing. And wisdom is an entirely different thing. It's how you assimilate all that. So find good mentors, not a mentor, multiple mentors, and know that you may have a mentor for one meeting or for 1 month or for 1 year, and you're going to get little bits, but also you're going to give information to them that's meaningful as well. Make that an exchange.